Hello everyone, of course it is me, Scat. That's right, that guy that you would occasionally stumble across here on YouTube. And as promised, yes, here is the part 1, most likely part 2. Yes, there should be 2 parts. I already know there will be 2 parts of a tutorial video on how I overhaul, refinish a 2018 Trick or Treat Studios, aka Tots, Michael Myers mask. People have asked me, have I done one? Have I not? Well, here we are. We're finally getting to it here in 2022. Naturally, when a Halloween Ends mask comes out, and when the time comes, and when I can do a tutorial on that, then you will definitely know about it. But for right now, let's go back in time, at least, and focus on probably the better film out of the 3, the 2018 Michael Myers mask. As I go through each step, I will do everything in my power to try to remember to show you exactly everything that I use to work on these masks. Naturally, as time goes by, you may run into new products that work even better for you. So I challenge you. In fact, I want to inspire all of you individuals out there, that hidden artist inside of you, to not only take my advice here, but to do your due diligence and do plenty of research, whether it's here on YouTube, your library, by going back in even more time, by reading a book, or ask others. Go to a paint shop like Sherwin-Williams, talk to the individuals there. Ask them about different types of flexible paints, that's latex or acrylics, possibly even more rubber types of cement, if you know what I mean. Just ask around, educate yourself. You'll find yourself getting just as much addicted to learning about the products that you need or the products that you'll use, but you'll think to yourself, I need more. And that's the beauty of it. So keep that in mind as you're watching this video. Just don't go by with what I'm doing here as a grain of salt. Do some more research, whether it's a Michael Myers mask or a mask that you're creating yourself. Never stop learning when it comes to art. That is the best advice I could give you, especially if you're a musician. It's music theory, not music facts. All right. So we got right here, 2018. What's the very first thing you do before you bring it home? You look at it carefully. That is if you have the privilege to actually picking one of these up in person. I do have that privilege, but not all the time. Occasionally, I will have to order it online. So if I can get it at home before I order it online, well, in other words, if I could go to a local store, what I would do is look at the mask carefully. Make sure there's no, certain things about the mask that just doesn't seem right. Like there's a bad pole in the eye. Gee, do we know anything about that from my unboxing video from the Halloween Ends mask? Maybe it's just a bad mask all together. You know, it's a defect. Then you want to go on to the next one naturally, right? I mean, trust me, I can't tell you how many times I've done this in the past, trying to learn from my mistakes. I grab it and go, then I go home and go, oh crap, what is that? Be patient. You're going to hear me use that word, patience. Just a little patience. If you like GNR, then that song's going to be stuck in your head. Just a little patience is really another key thing about when it comes to working on anything, period. I don't care if you're making yourself, well, no, if you're like me, if you're making something to eat in the kitchen, you don't have any patience. But when it comes to these, yes, you just want to be calm, cool, and collective and trust your own eyes and your own instincts. And you will get better at this, trust me, as time goes by. Now, if you don't have the luxury to go to your local corner shop, say, and pick one of these up, or any mask at that point, and you got to order online, then do yourself another huge favor. Read their policies. Make sure they do have a return policy. If they don't, then you don't want to do business with them. And there's a good chance that price may be too good to be true because they're going to rip you off in the first place. In other words, you might see these online, especially eBay, for $19.99, and they'll show you images that they stolen technically from Trick or Treat Studios of the mask. And then when you receive the mask, it'll look something like, well, I'll show you. It'll look something like this. Granted, I'm goofing around with the paint, but I think you get the idea. This is a Chinese ripoff, and don't put yourself in that position. Raise some hell with, like, say, Amazon, and explain to them that you got ripped off and everything else, and they may refund your money. Thankfully, I got mine back. Yeah, that was supposed to be a 78. Trick or Treat Studio 78. So be very careful. Read the policies. make sure they do have a return policy like the fine folks at Nightmare Toys. Or Party City, or is it Spirits? Trick or Treat Studios. I firmly believe they have a policy, return policy. I don't know for sure, but I would check. So yeah, avoid that kind of crap, if you know what I mean. What I'm going to do before anything else, and this is for, video purposes only, I'm going to show you what I do if I wanted to reuse this hair on this mask. In other words, I don't want to rehair the whole mask itself. Maybe it's because I don't have the knowledge of right now of how to rehair a mask. I don't know where to get the hair, etc., etc. I just don't want to take that risk. I don't have the experience. There we go. And your gut tells you, well, I just want to stick with the stock hair. I like it. But I know there's a step that I need to take. And there's been others out there like Nick Malpagano who's shown you quite a few times basically what to do. And it's generally the same step that I would do if I was going to reuse this hair here. So at this point, before I do that, let me show you the tools that I use. Yes, my famous notorious distilled water. This is just a recycled, what was once a multi-surface I rinsed the hell of a long time ago, and now I keep distilled water, which you can buy at any grocery store. Yes, I swear by distilled water because, well, here in Ohio where I live, we have hard water issues, a lot of limestone in the water. And when you do enough homework about water itself, especially when it's going through a manufacturer, distilled is the safest thing. There's absolutely no minerals at all whatsoever. In fact, I use distilled water in my coffee makers and everything. I just don't want to take any chances of destroying my wonderful Bun coffee maker or even my Keurig. So distilled, it is very safe on your latex. Now, I'm not saying have distilled water in your mask make love with one another, but it's definitely a safe product to use. Now, here I'm talking about safe products. Once you think, well, isn't a lacquer thinner not the safe? No, it's not. But if you're careful with it, then it could be a great tool to use. And there's another, where did I leave the bottle at? Because I was wanting to at least show it here on camera. And I'll put it up here on the screen because I forgot to bring it from out of the kitchen. The alcohol that I use. I go at the 70%. I can never pronounce this full entire name, but you can see it for yourself. You can get it 91, I think, 70, and 50%. I go with 70. 70 seems to be the sweet spot when it comes to removing any imperfections, or if you're going to work with it, which you will see here very clearly as we progress with rehauling this mask. All right, so let me get this out of the way because I've actually already poured it into my Roxy glasses that I use. Which, by the way, if you have, let's say, some old coffee mugs laying around, or maybe the dollar store, or I know, your typical Goodwill store, there's always tons of glassware that's there to sell. And I'm sure there's certain days where they have 50% off. I like using glass when it comes to alcohol or even paint, especially these glasses right here. They're perfect. Obviously, when you're done with it, you can rinse them off and use them time and time and time again. I don't like putting alcohol in plastic containers. It's just going to eat right through it, and next thing you know, you got a huge mess. Now, here's the thing. In one glass, I have a lacquer thinner in, and the other one I have that alcohol in. Now, I don't recommend you do this because lacquer thinner is extremely strong. I know this is lacquer thinner. I can tell from working with it so much because it's, like I said, it's very strong. Very, very strong stuff. If you have a face mask, which I'm sure you do, let's face it, since 2020, a lot of us have access to face masks more than ever. I recommend that you wear one of those when you're working with lacquer thinner. You don't want to constantly breathe that in your lungs. Or naturally, of course, acrylic paints and everything else. You just don't want to breathe that crap into your lungs. Trust me, whether you're indoors or out. Just be smart. Your body is the most important part of you. Take care of yourself. And there's some other tools that I use that I go through quite a bit, and that's Q-tips. If you can see, just Q-tips. I get these really at the Dollar Tree because they're, a whole thing for $1.25 now. Everything's $1.25 there, including the alcohol containers. Damn it, I wish I would have remembered to bring that out, but I'm not climbing through all this. You'll see it as we progress, trust me. And, of course, the good old T-shirts or some soft cottony old towels. actually I should say pillowcase sheets or whatever, that's a tool that you're going to use quite a bit. Of course, some paint brushes and all that. But right now, we're just thinking about the hair. Oh, and of course, the tag itself. Here's what I do. It's totally up to you, but when I'm working on, let's say, when I was doing rehauls for customers, this is what I actually do. Now, I know you've seen in the past where people have maybe taken a plastic bag and they've wrapped this up to protect it. And then that's fine. If you want to do that, that's totally up to you. I'm not saying that it's wrong or not, but if you, I know you're not going to be able to see it very clearly here, at least I'm assuming you won't be able to on the camera, but I just take it's usually two little plastic ones. This one only has one. It's not a big deal. But I just go inside the mask and I can naturally see the hole. Oh, there is two. I'm sorry. And I just patiently take one little, I wish you guys could see this, but you'll see it yourself if you haven't already. I just kind of re-pierce it through the hole that I don't even know what type of gun they call it, but I just take one piece, like I said, re-pierce it through the hole, kind of pull it out carefully. You're not going to hurt the mask. And then I do the same with the other. Just kind of re-pierce it again through the hole. And then, voila, boom. Well, I spoke too soon. And voila, it comes out. Now I've got this that little plastic stuff still stuck on the card. Put it in a safe place like a drawer or whatever. That way when the mask is done, if I want to put it back on there, and I'll show you when I'm done exactly how I do it. God, I hope I don't forget. But yes, I put that to a safe spot and save that to the very end. And trust me, you're not going to need special tools to retouch it. Okay, now we're at this point, right? I've looked at the mask carefully. It's in decent shape. I was fortunate enough to pick this up at Foy's, which I've already did the video on that. Now, before I use any of these tools, whether it's lacquer, that's the last one I use, by the way. That's my last resource right there. Before I use any of these tools, the very first thing I do, because I can guarantee you this, if you haven't yet already been through this experience, then if you decide to do more, you will notice it in a heartbeat. Every one of these masks that I've done, from whether it was a Kirk's, Tots, God, I wish they'd still manufacture those. Yes, they no longer manufacture Kirk's, which really sucks. So if you have a Kirk, Trick or Treat Studios Captain Kirk mask, hold on to that bad boy, because it's going to be worth some money. I just have a gut feeling it will be someday. Just, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Oh well, you still have it, right? Okay. Anyways, every single one of these masks, let's say, I'll go back to the Kirk's for an example. I've had one particular Kirk where the hair came off so easily. I mean, it was so easy. I had the first Kills mask that I work on. The very first one. And it was that tutorial video. The hair came off so easily. Now, will this one do that? Probably not, since I brought it up. And who knows how long this mask has been on the shelf. So there's a good chance the hair and the glue has really made a strong grip together. So what I do first, and I'm sure you can pretty much tell because I don't have cameras everywhere, I just start at the one side, whatever side you prefer, right where the ear's at, and I just try to pull it. And I don't force it. I just see how easy it's going to come off. Thankfully right now it's cooperating. That's right now, and it's not uncommon that that happens close to the ear. So like I said, I hope you could see it. I just take my time. I'm left-handed, so maybe if you switch it around, you guys are smart enough. You can figure this out. I kind of push the mask down with my right hand. It's like I'm trying to separate the hair where it's glued on and from the mask. And I just try to pinch them away from one another where the hair's been glued onto it and all. You'll get a feel for it right away. And sure enough, right now, everything seems to be going pretty smooth. Now, if you find it kind of catching on to the back, in other words, this piece right here, the front of it catching on to, let's say, the top of the hair, it's going to happen. Don't worry. Maybe just kind of separate it a little bit. It's not a big deal. Right now, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm trying to separate the two, because that might help you as you're trying to remove the front piece. Now what I do is I go over to the other side right now and just do basically the same thing but from the other side. and just take your time. Now, if it doesn't come off all in one piece, don't be surprised if it happens, because it may happen. It's happened to me plenty of times. I mean, I may get lucky and this all comes off. Nope, it just broke right there. Don't worry, it's not a big deal. Just hold on to it, or take that piece, like right there, even though it's just a little piece. Take that. Now, before you started this, get yourself a grocery bag or whatever. Take that piece and put it in a bag. Save it for later. Or if you've got a pair of scissors, right now, cut off where they've glued it. It's up to you. I personally wait until later for that. Because right now it's pretty dry, it's sticky, and it's not going to stick on anything. So yes, remember that. Keep that up. This is actually the bag that Foley's, when you purchase a bag, they just put a black bag. I love these things. I wish I could get black bags everywhere, but I'm sure if I ordered them I could. But yeah, do that. And just keep it by your side. And just continue doing that. Now, the good thing of it is, if you could do this without using any of the lacquer thinner or the alcohol or water, then that's awesome. You're getting through this process much quicker. And so far, I seem to be having some good luck. Maybe I should get the camera out every time I remove the hair on these things. As I tell you, I think there's been only one other time where I started working on a mask, and sure enough, the hair was just on there with the strongest glue that seemed like. Right now, it's definitely cooperating, so I'm gonna say lucky me. So I'm gonna start separating the two. In other words, separate what I have been removing from the hair that's still attached to the mask itself. It just, like I said, it just makes it easier. That's all I'm doing right now. Making it visually and physically easier for me. So right now, this is pretty much what I'm dealing with. It's pretty funny looking, I know. So, keep on going to your best ability. And if you can keep this up, like I said, without using any of those liquids, that's great. But it's usually right in the middle of the mask is where it's most stubborn. And I'm talking right here, right there on the forehead. I don't know why, but it's just really stubborn that way. Well, I'm going to take this piece, okay? And another reason why I like to just try to keep that glue line there, if I can. You know, it looks like a silly ass eyebrow. This kind of helps me as a reference of what side it was on too, because you could naturally, when you're ready to put this back on, you can kind of tell where it went or how it's going to lay out. So that's another reason why I prefer to keep that where the glue, I know you can see that. Just as long as it's not too sticky, because you don't want it sticking to the hair that's inside the bag, especially if it takes you a while to work on this project. I've just got a little bit more that's attached to this, and I want to. I kind of look at this as a chess game. Think ahead. Think of what your next 3 steps are going to be. Your next 3 moves. Just makes it easier. You know. But if you're like me, if you have a problem with thinking too much, then well. Maybe everything in life is kind of like chess. You're trying to think 3 steps ahead. Or at least I try to. You're watching this video going like, this sucks. But you know what? This is what you got to go through when you're going to, rehaul your own mask or others. Especially if you go through this method of wanting to reuse the hair. Now, I'm not saying that that's bad. It's your choice in the matter. Some people like to reuse the hair. And I can't say I blame them. All right, as you could tell, I was able to remove that front, the line right there that obviously that covers the forehead. I got rid of that completely. And I'm glad, especially for when you're doing a video to show what you would do if you're going to reuse the hair. Let me put this in the bag. Now, here comes the part where you're going to deal with the back. Okay? This could be kind of a pain in the you-know-what. I just try to separate it from obviously the neck of the mask, the latex of the back of the mask. Separate as much as I can before I have to get out, maybe some lacquer thinner, water, or alcohol. And as you can see at this point, and you can tell I haven't edited any, here's a different mask. I haven't used any other tools other than my hand, which these are really going to be your best tools. This, and this. Oh, and this too. Oh, getting a Hallmark moment on the my rehaul. Seriously. If you love being creative, then you're going to be a natural at this. There's no doubt about it. Actually, I find myself getting lost in my own little world when I'm working on these masks. I like turning on the music that I enjoy listening to. I just forget about what's going on in the world when I work on these. I really do. Okay, now the reason why this is kind of tedious, and this doesn't matter whether you decide to keep the hair or not, you've always got this hair that's glued to the back of it, right? Now, there's going to be so many different individuals that's worked with these masks that'll have different theories on how to deal with this, and that's fine. There's no... Look, if somebody showed me a way how to remove this hair to where it was a lot less stressful, and I learned something that day, then that's awesome. So yes, we all do a great job of helping one another out on this process. Okay, what I do now, because there's no way I'm going to be able to, and I'm hoping you guys can see the hairs on this. It's kind of like someone who hasn't gotten a haircut in a long time. You got the hairs growing on the back of your neck. You naturally wish you could just shave that off. Here, that is. Sometimes I've gotten lucky and I start rubbing my thumb up against the mask and I can feel that glue, and I start rolling the hair off. And you'll notice that more if you get it wet. So I could go ahead. That's the lacquer thinner. I could use that, and trust me, it will help. Or I can use the alcohol. Or I can spray some water on, which what I do right now. But what I try to do is, in other words, learn a good habit. Instead of spraying the mask, I try to spray the cloth that I'm using, okay? And the reason why, when it comes down to the point where, let's say you're done painting the mask and you want to restyle your hair, whether it's stock hair or your own, you're better off wetting the cloth down than spraying water on the mask itself, because if your paint's not completely dry, the next thing you know, you've got water running over your paint job, and then it's going to start stripping some of that paint. It's going to start, and then you're going to be so frustrated because guess what? You possibly ruined the work that you've done. So by doing this, by spraying the cloth instead of the mask, you're running less of a risk of overspraying some water onto your paint that's not completely dry. And I think you get the idea. So yeah, practice, good habits, if you know what I mean. So just by going with water, the safest out of all these, it's doing a good job of removing the hair off the back of the neck. So I try that, and I stick with that method for as long as I can until I feel like I have to, increase the strength on it. And then I go from, like, say, the alcohol, and if that doesn't seem to work, then I go ahead with the lacquer thinner. I wait to use the lacquer thinner as my last resort because A, it's the most expensive out of the three, and B, it's a lot more stronger of a detergent, obviously, than the three. And the less damage that I could do to my mask, the better off. So let me go ahead and focus on trying to remove more of this hair, and once I'm done, I'll show you, and I think you get a good idea of what it should look like in the end, because I don't want to keep on rolling and boring the hell out of you. This is going to be probably a 3-part tutorial. I have a strong feeling on that. Oop, got another piece I need to put in the bag. Be right back. Okay, now that I have gotten the sides removed, the back up, and hypothetically, all of the hair removed off the neck. I technically don't right now because when I'm done recording, I'm going to concentrate more on removing all this hair. back here, and then of course the top, because it would take me a lot longer, and I just want to get to this point because this is really, you know, for video purposes only, and I just by me explaining this to you, it'll make more sense because visually I don't have all the camera angles to show you exactly what it looks like when you have the hair removed. But the main reason why you want the hair off the back of this neck, if you are going to rehaul your mask with brushes, whether there's hair on the brush, you know, the brush itself is like whatever type of hair materials, horsehair or whatever, or if it's a sponge or whatever, you're wanting to avoid getting any of these hairs or glue that's loose, and it will come loose. And as you're painting, you want to avoid getting it on the face of your mask. Does that make sense? I mean, come on. Your vision of you doing your perfect rehaul, and next thing you know, it's ruined because you got all this stupid hair right here on your mask. It's just going to drive you nuts, and then you're going to try to fix it. Next thing you know, you've screwed up the paint, and then you get frustrated and throw your mask on the floor, all because of some little accidents like that. Gee, does it sound like that's ever happened to me? Yes, it has. So trust me, going through this tedious part, making sure that that's clean, it's kind of like back in the day when cars would go to the body shop and they're getting the car painted. And, you know, that the most tedious part was sanding that thing down with all that. And I'll tell you what, I used to do that stuff or help out. I thought I was going to be a painter on cars and all that, but that's tedious. Trust me, it is. And you got to get this stuff out of the way. And it can be kind of time consuming, but it's well worth it in the end. And once you get your own method down and finding the right tools to do it, you'll find it getting a lot easier for you too. Because there's other materials that you can use other than what I'm showing you right here. And I'm sure those other materials may work great for others. So just keep that in mind. That's why I'm trying to tell you and so many others out there, go watch others that do this line of work. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Myers mask, but go and ask questions because I'm sure there's something that they could share with you that might be a hell of a lot more beneficial than what I'm sharing with you right here. Now, let's say we got that part all taken care of. Now you are going to naturally want to either cover your hair or not. But if you decide to cover your hair, you're going to, let's say, the Dollar Tree now to get you some more tools that you need to save some money. Q-tips. I highly recommend you have plenty of Q-tips on stock, as well as that alcohol, that 7% alcohol. You could buy it at the Dollar Tree, $1.25. Like I said, I wish, where did I put it? It's in the kitchen. Sorry about that. Oh, and another thing too, if you do decide to go the route where you are going to, let's say, dye your own hair, getting some vinegar there, cleaning vinegar, $1.25, boom, I got to go back there and get some more. And when I get to that step, I'll show you. It'll all make sense then. So now let's say you go get yourself a hairnet. Voila, you put it on there. It's got an elastic band. Well, it's done. You could adjust it to however you want it, right? Using the grocery bag. Oops, I put too much tape on. But using the grocery bag, use it in real time. That's fine if you want to go that route. And then you're going to try to use some masking tape to hold the grocery bag up, right? Okay, now you're trying to line that up to where you're going to have where you want it painted or not. That's usually a pain in the ass. So there goes that. You still could use that method, but it sucks. Or you could go with some masking tape that's probably a little bit thicker than this. Maybe it's a 3-inch or 2-inch, whatever the hell it's called. I think it's like 2 inches. But you could go this route if you want to. Take some masking tape and then go around where you don't want it painted and go that route. I mean, that's fine, but that's kind of tedious too. I rather use that hairnet. That's just my personal choice, and it's just as cheap. Beats the hell out of going through all this tape, wadding up when it's done, or just getting frustrated with that. And that's the last thing you want to do. You don't want to get frustrated when you're working on these. Why? Because this right here gives you a chance to escape from the real world bullshit. And we've been dealing with a lot of real world bullshit lately. Am I right or am I right? No, you want to be less stressed out when you're working on these, because I can tell you right now, if you've never done this before, it's going to get more challenging as it comes along. Or it may not for you. But if it does, the last thing you want to do is work harder on something that you enjoy. No, you want to work smarter and you want to be more relaxed while you're working on it. So that's why I'm trying to help you out the best I can. And that being said, the more I think about it, this is going to be longer than a 2-part video, because let's think, I've only gotten this far. So as I go along working on this tutorial, I want to try to be a little bit more thorough, and then that way you guys will have more of an understanding of what I use. And then when after you're done watching either one of these parts, or if you want to go over them again, maybe you will think, okay, that does work out great, but you want to start doing some more research with other artists. Maybe find other individuals that do great work with airbrushes, better than what I do. Go do some research on how to do the basic tips on airbrushing, you know, if you decide to go that route. Different types of hair material, wool material. There's tons of videos there. I hope to God I could find this one video that I came across when it came to working with Crepe hair. Crepe hair right now is very popular when it comes to the 2018, the HK, and most likely the ends. There was a video of these two guys actually sitting down doing a tutorial of working with Crepe hair, because it was used a lot and probably still to this day for like beards and stuff like that. And I tell you, it was amazing. And after watching that video, I was like, you got to be kidding me. I could use Crepe that way. For an example, Crepe, it comes like in a rope when you buy it. You'll probably see it on Amazon, Etsy, or eBay in ropes, right? And it's basically wrapped up with one string, like it's lassoed around it. So what you do is you remove that string, and then you usually cut it in like 6 to 8 inches. Now, I usually buy it like, say, in 4 feet, so it's obviously it comes in a length of 4 feet. So I cut it down in about 6 to 8 inches, and then after that, from what this video shows, he takes those 6 to 8 inches and he kind of spreads it apart a little bit. After it spreads apart, where it's a little bit more flattened, he dips it in a container, which you would, if you decide to do this, you take a container, room temperature, you dip it in it, then take it out, then kind of like hand dry it, tap it, then set it out on a rag or a proper location to let it air dry overnight. The Crepe hair, you will find once it's dry, it's expanded. In fact, you'll find yourself, as you're carefully pulling it, it goes from, let's say you ordered a foot, it goes from a foot to like 5 to 6 feet. I mean, it's amazing what Crepe hair can do. It really is. So if I could come across that video, that link, I'll definitely share it in this video's description box, because you want to check it out if you want to learn more about Crepe hair, I would say, from a master who knows more about it. It's pretty interesting. And then I'll talk more about wool hair once I get to the process of when I rehair this thing, because obviously I made it clear I'm not going to use the stock hair on this. And if you do decide to do stock hair, I'll try to remind myself the tips that I would use to style it back out once it gets to the point after you've glued the hair. Basically you're at that point now. Just go through the same thing. In fact, I'll do it now. Take a cloth like so, t-shirt, spray the cloth, not the mask, because it may still be a little wet, and just go this over the hair, kind of tease it a little bit, and then you, once it's a little bit more wet, you got maybe somewhat removed up. Right now it's going to look silly because it's not all there, but you can carefully tease the hair to get it the way you want it to look. Truth be told, it's a lot easier with hair that you are going to use to rehair. It's a little bit thicker and all that. This is a little bit more challenging, but it can be done. You just have to be patient and then wet it down carefully. Right now it's still kind of, I don't know, it still needs, it would have been needed to be styled anyways, because it's just, I don't know, it's like there's hairspray or something, and I like to get it a little damp, a little wet as I work with it. Just be patient. Just be patient with it. That's the key thing. Always be patient with the work you do on these. Alrighty, folks. Well, look forward to the next video. It's probably another boring task video, but it's me getting prepared to put the base coat on this. But I want to start cleaning this now. That'll be too boring. I want to try to get all the hair that I can off the neck. I want to make sure the face is nice and clean. And then, like I said, prep it for the base coat. And I will show you exactly the paints that I use, the technique and all that. It's pretty simple, but just having some, knowledge of what paints I use might be helpful for you. If you do like this type of content, and if you haven't yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button along with that notification bell, because hopefully YouTube will notify you the next time I upload the part 2 video. Hopefully. The YouTube's been pretty bad about that. I hear that from every YouTube artist out there. It's like the notifications aren't getting out, but you never know. It may get out to you. And of course, a thumbs up will definitely help my videos be pushed more in the algorithm. Granted, I need to work on more content, but the more recognition there will give YouTube, hey, they must like that guy. We'll start pushing his videos out. All right, I'm shutting up because I got a lot of cleaning to do. See you soon. Take care. Bye.